Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live, thank you for that. If you are checking us out online, please remember we do upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. We have audio and video versions there for you to check out. Appreciate you joining us again this morning. Getting into your traffic. It's looking relatively clear this morning, especially on I-12. It is flowing. You're going to look at some delays on your on-ramps getting onto I-12. Also some minor delays on 64 heading into Central. Some pressure points on 190. You're looking at it at 447 and 190, Jubin and 190, as well as Range and 190. Delays starting to stack up at 4H Club Road, River Road, and 190 as well. So 190 not as smooth flowing. I-12 still looking pretty good, though, today. It's currently 82 degrees, 94 degrees is your high, 75 your overnight low. Mix of clouds and sun today, going to be a warm one, starting to ratchet up the 94-degree weather. Want to remind folks, the National Weather Service yesterday, as well as state officials, have asked individuals to please be careful with the temperature. It's going to start getting hotter and hotter and hotter with heat indexes between 105 and 110 in our area. That's due to high humidity as well as the regular heat. Please remember to wear light, loose-fitting clothing. Of course, I'm not doing that right now with my black jacket, but try to wear light, loose-fitting clothing, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time outside. Drink plenty of fluids. Please also remember to take care of your skin. Wear an umbrella or use an umbrella or something like that. Try to stay in the shade if you are outside. It's going to be very hot for the next couple of weeks. Of course, we are now into July, so we've made it through the halfway point in the year. 6 months, what a year, huh? So please be careful. Don't mess with the heat. It is very hot outside, and it's only going to get warmer as we move deeper into July. Want to talk about these mitigation efforts real quick. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds or more. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Don't touch your face. My favorite one. Don't touch your face. Control cough and sneezing, preferably with an elbow or a tissue. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others in public. 25 or less to a gathering. And try to stay home to work if at all possible. And stay home if you're sick. Utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Yesterday, the governor had a wrap-up press conference after the end of the special legislative session. The legislature was able to produce a lot of the things that they were hoping to produce. I know we had our doubts here on this show about whether or not they'd be able to get insurance reform passed. It wasn't the whole, I guess you can say, the big omnibus bill that they were hoping for that had passed earlier in the regular session and was vetoed by the governor. This was a little more tame, looking at the $50,000 jury threshold that has been discussed ad nauseum has been dropped down to $10,000. There are some critics who are worried that might fill up the court system a little too quick. Time will tell. But the whole idea was that these lawyers, especially personal injury lawyers, had a connection with the judge. They'd take them to the camp or bring them for dinner or something like that. And they were just rolling off $49,000 judgments against these insurance companies without a jury, without any kind of due process. So they're hoping that this will change, I guess you can say, that issue. There also is a change written into the law that medical damages paid or owed will be what is paid out. It will not be based on the sticker price or sort of the average price of some individual crash. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not those two factors do in fact bring Louisiana auto insurance rates down. Time will tell. Perhaps it's a start. Maybe it'll bring it down a little bit. And the legislature will need to go further. We will see. The budget itself is about $35 billion. Both the legislature and the governor said it's about a standstill budget. There was not a whole lot of contention or back and forth between the governor and the legislative bodies. They did not give raises to state employees. There was about $58 million in the budget slated for that. The legislature said it just wasn't the right time. They didn't believe that would be a good look or a good public relations move, considering there were a lot of individuals who were still unemployed in the private sector. So the governor did express disappointment at his press conference yesterday, but that was something that was not within the budget. Also, kind of interesting, and this was asked by a reporter yesterday at the governor's press conference. No line item vetoes this year. He did not go and scratch out any projects or anything like that. He just let the budget lie. So what he received is what he signed. So that's very interesting, considering in past years that's kind of used as a political weapon or a budgetary constraint weapon. In this case, it wasn't used at all. And when asked, was it a favor? Was it a discussion? Was it a deal? The governor said no. There wasn't anything to line item veto. We're rolling with the budget that we have. They still are looking at meeting. This would be the legislature is still looking at meeting in the fall. It's still going to be looking at the next 3 to 4 months to see what goes on with the economy, with employment, and how the state's budget looks based on projections. So there's going to be a lot more to play on this before the end of the year. So keep your eyes on that. Ooh, just had a little bit of lag. Sorry about that, folks. Also, $250 hazard pay was passed by the governor. It is signed, so that's going to be shipped out to those essential workers who made $50,000 or less and worked 200 hours or more between roughly the middle of March and the middle of May. So that would be about 200 hours over a 60-day period. Usually pretty acquirable for anybody working 40 hours a week. So we're going to see when those start to roll out, you can go to the Treasurer's Department or the Department of Revenue and sign up for that. If you were an essential worker, you will be required to produce some proof that you were an essential worker during that time. Those were the three biggest to come out of the legislative session. A lot of small stuff. We will be getting together with Mr. Buddy Mincy and Mr. Rogers Pope to discuss the session with them, see how they felt about it, what it was like, especially for Mr. Mincy to be a first-year lawmaker and have to go through COVID-19. Mr. Mincy batting pretty on his bills. Haven't kept up with Rogers Pope as much as I should, but we'll be seeing what if he passed anything. There was, of course, a lot of push for the major bills to get done. So we're going to see what both of them were able to succeed in during this very interesting time. Graduations will continue through tomorrow, so there will be one tonight and one tomorrow night. Thursday, July 2nd is the last day. Rolling through these things, it's been an interesting period for the seniors, of course. They always say we're born in and around September 11th, 2001, went through the flood as freshmen, and are now going through COVID as seniors. So a resilient bunch, that one. But, of course, graduation's nearly complete for these high schoolers. Very, very much deserved. Congratulations to those seniors. Tomorrow, the National Guard, excuse me. Actually, I'm sorry. This is today. The National Guard will do a flyover, and they will pass over Livingston Parish. This is today for healthcare workers. They will be passing over North Oaks Health Center in Hammond at about 11:20 a.m. So sometime about 11:25 if you're in the Albany area. 11:30 in Livingston, probably about 11:35, 11:40 in the Denham area. You'll be able to see these guys fly over. Again, they'll be flying. It's the National Guard. They will be flying over to celebrate healthcare workers. They will eventually land in Lake Charles. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for doing that for this very well-deserving group who has been on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic this entire time since it arrived in America. Getting into your coronavirus statistics real quick, because we got a few things to talk about that. 58,095 cases, 3,113 deaths, 42,225 are recovered. 730,000 tests have been performed, so we have kind of blown that testing capacity out of the water. Wanted to do it better this month than we have in previous months. Wanted to hit several hundred thousand. That's nearly 400,000 new tests in the month of June. So very impressive. 781 hospitalizations currently, and that number is going up on 83 ventilators. Today, the governor is going to have another press conference at 2:30. This one will be COVID specific. He will be talking about the coronavirus. He's going to be talking about potentially more restrictions to try to curb the spread again. Of course, our cases are growing, but a lot of that has to do with tests. But there are some areas where that positivity rate, which is the rate of positive tests per new batch that comes in is over what the state is looking for. And what the state's looking for is what the CDC and the federal task force is looking for, which is roughly 10% or less. There are areas of the state that are experiencing more than 10%. The governor said that he has talked with the federal task force out of the White House. He will have a call with them today that'll be a little more in depth, talking about Louisiana's plan to curb the spread that is growing. The governor did say specifically that he had spoken to Dr. Deborah Birx. Birx was concerned that Louisiana was pushing back in a direction where we would overwhelm critical health care. The governor said he is going to do everything he can to stop that. Now, interestingly, during that press conference, Attorney General Jeff Landry tweeted the governor and asked that he be aware of the Reverend Tony Spell's judgment against the governor that came out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal. Now, important to remember that despite that ruling that perhaps the governor overstepped his bounds or that he would not be able to keep churches closed, once we moved into phase 1 and phase 2, that judgment became moot, which was expressed in the opinion of the judgment. Now, what they're trying to say, one would guess, is that you cannot move back into restrictive measures where you could keep churches from gathering. Will be interesting to see where that sort of port of contention goes forward. But we still have one phase we could go back to, which is phase 1, before we move back into a stay-at-home order. So it's going to be interesting to see what he discusses with the federal task force and what comes out today in his press conference. One thing he did mention yesterday was the federal task force has talked to him about mandatory masks in some political subdivisions to try to help curb the spread. So it's going to be interesting to see if he jumps into into that, kind of pit of fire, I guess you can say. There are a lot of people, for reasons that are their own, will not wear a mask. And I say will not because they will tell you they're not going to wear a mask. So there's a large gap between those who wear masks and those who don't. And trying to tell those who don't, you're going to have to. Not entirely sure how that's going to work out. So we're going to have to see what the governor has to say today at 2:30. Yesterday, a bit of an alarming situation. It was reported that good morning, Miss Margaret. Thanks for joining us. It was reported that a staff member at the Denham Springs Walker Branch Library had contracted COVID-19 or tested positive for it. That library branch has been shut down for quarantine and cleaning and will reopen at a later date, a date yet unknown. You need to watch if you're interested and go to the Denham Springs Walker Branch Library. You need to keep an eye on their social media. We'll also try to let you guys know just as soon as they decide to reopen. However, we did learn from the Registrar of Voters, Jaron Andrews, that early voting will continue through this Saturday as it was initially intended. There's going to be a limit on the number of people that can come inside the library, and you must come in the back door, which is you got to go get on Eden Church and then go in the back parking lot. You must come through the back door to be able to vote. The front part of the library will be closed, along with some other sections that are there in the back. Again, number of folks allowed inside during that time will be limited. You must park in the back and come through the back door. So please remember that. Please remember you might have to wait if you go up there, as they're going to be taking every precaution they can. And you may have to pass by a couple of times trying to see if there's enough room. You may have to come back. But again, Denham Springs Walker Branch Library itself, the front portion, the library portion, will be closed for the foreseeable future as they disinfect, clean, and wait for that individual to go through quarantine. They will reopen at a later date that they will make known on social media. But early voting still going on through this Saturday. A state health officer addressed a couple of myths, so to speak, with regard to wearing a mask. We just talked about mandatory masks and the potential for that from the governor's press conference this afternoon at 2:30. But they wanted to get somebody out there to try to talk about what some mask myths are and that sort of thing. So let's run through it real quick. Myth number, and I got to pick this up so I can read it. Myth number 1, wearing a mask doesn't work. According to the health officials, this is spreading, especially through communities now, as opposed to congregate settings, through a mist. So the mist itself can actually be blocked by the mask. So that's important to remember. Number 2, I'm not sick. I don't need one. Well, we know that through the CDC and the World Health Organization, as well as the White House, the federal task force, asymptomatic spread at this time is theorized to not be as bad, but there's still a potential there. Also, a lot of people might have it, especially in younger folks. It does not affect you as much. So you may just think, well, I just have allergies, or I just have, maybe a little fever or something, nothing crazy. All the while you could be spreading it. It's always a good idea if you're in public to wear a mask. If I wear a mask, the myth number 3, if I wear a mask, I don't need to social distance. Well, this is kind of like, I've seen this online, and this is something that a lot of people have started to use. It's sort of the comparison. I have a seatbelt and airbags. You doing both massively helps the percentage potential that 2 people near each other can transfer the disease from one person to the other. So please remember, it's kind of like wearing a seatbelt and having airbags. It doesn't hurt to do both, and it actually helps both people reduce that percentage chance that they can transfer the virus between each other. So remember, even if you're wearing a mask, you need to social distance. Excuse me. It just needs to cover my mouth. Also not true, because you breathe through your nose as well. It needs to cover your mouth and your nose for full protection. So those were the 4 myths that the Louisiana Department of Health officials went over in kind of a little breakdown that they sent out. So please remember that you need to wear a mask. It is important. It does help. It helps you. It helps others. And there is also no reason not to social distance. All of these things are important to help curb the spread of the coronavirus. And getting into that, 5,050, God, I want to do that so bad. Let me start over. 58,095 cases, 3,113 deaths, 42,225 have recovered, 730,000 tests were performed or have been performed up to this date. 781 hospitalizations on 83 ventilators. Remember the mitigation efforts. Wash your hands for 20 seconds or more with soap and water. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask if at all possible. Don't touch your face. My favorite one. Control your cough and your sneezing with an elbow or a tissue. 6 feet or more of distance between yourself and others. 25 or less to a gathering. And stay home to work if at all possible. And stay home if you're sick. Utilize telehealth to get in touch with your doctor. Please remember today your traffic. You've got on-ramp delays at I-12 and Range, 447 and June. Some are worse than others, but you're looking at delays on each one of those. Also some delays on 190 at 447, Jubin, and Range. Starting to get some stack up at 4H Club Road, River Road, and 190 as well. I-12 is flowing, so not too bad today. 64 also flowing in the Central. It's currently 82 degrees. 94 degrees is your high. 75 your overnight low. It's going to be sunny and mix of sun and clouds. Want to remind folks, please remember it is hot. The humidity is starting to get oppressive. Yesterday we released the announcement from the National Weather Service as well as state officials asking people to please remember to mitigate the heat as much as possible. You're looking at heat indexes, especially here in Livingston Parish, anywhere from 105 to 110 or 105 degrees to 110 degrees. So try to carry water with you. Utilize an umbrella if you have to stay outside. Wear light, loose-fitting clothing for the time being, and just try to stay cool. Try to utilize air conditioning and fans to get out of that heat. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. Want to remind folks we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in the mail to your mailbox. We are also online, as mentioned, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We have a podcast page, which is free, which has audio and video versions of these shows. We also have a coronavirus page, also free. You get all that coronavirus information for free. We also have a breaking news page, which is a lot about political information, and you can catch all that for free. Again, it is July 1st. We have made it through the first half of the year. We're moving into quarter 3. It's going to be oppressively hot these first 2 months, so please be careful. And please take care of yourself today, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Come on. Oh, there it is.